everyone, and welcome back to another episode of BBN. I'm here with the Olean Times-Herald's JP Butler and SBU-TV sports reporter Anthony Goss. We got a lot on tap for you today. Let's first start with the Bonnies traveling to DC. St. Bonaventure's fans always travel well, including their alumni. It was a 6-hour drive for St. Bonaventure students to make the trip to the nation's capital, and hundreds of alumni were in attendance as well. And the energy heading into the Bonnies A-10 quarterfinals game was electric. And it kind of stayed that way persistently throughout until that final buzzer when the Bonnies fans looked up at the final score, saw 57-56 with their Bonnies losing. And many fans saying after the game they stayed in the stands just in awe and shock, staring at the clock. Were even forced to leave by the security as the next fans were trying to take over the student section. And then many fans saying that they were crying as they left the arena. It was a one-day trip that everyone had kind of expected to be a 3-day trip. And it was just heartbreak for St. Bonaventure fans all around the country. So now taking a look after the game, obviously heartbreaking defeat for St. Bonaventure and Mark Schmidt's bunch. Here's what Coach Schmidt said after the game, after Kyle Lofton's missed free throws at the end, and how that does not define him in the season that he had.
One play doesn't define him. And, he's been everything to our program, to me as the head coach. He epitomizes everything that we want in a play. A good student, keeps his nose clean socially. He's a hard worker. He's a captain for 4 years, but named captain as a freshman. And it hurts.
Lofton definitely had a great season, and his best friend, they say, on the court, Oshun Oshuni, was kind of taken out of that game, not even having a shot attempt in that first half. But here's what he had to say at the end of the game following that tough defeat on what the mindsets were around the team.
I mean, it hurts. I had 2 shots to possibly put the game away, and Kyle had a chance to basically win the game and tie the game. Both of us have been in the gym for hours, every single day working on that, so just didn't, go our way today. It hurts a lot more in the situation of how we lost, seniors, and could possibly be our last game together. So all the emotions that you could imagine is going through our head right now. Hurts.
Now taking a look at that A-10 quarterfinal game between the number 4 seeded St. Bonaventure Bonnies with the double bye and the number 5 seeded St. Louis Billikens. The game started off a little slow for St. Bonaventure. They start 1 of 12, but Don Welch gives the Bonnies their first lead of the game after his 3-pointer with 7 minutes to go. And a few minutes later, Lofton feeds them on the cut to the basket to extend the lead to 4. This would end up being St. Bonaventure's largest lead of the game. At the end of the first half, with about 2.5 to go, down 14-18, St. Louis used a 12-4 run to end the half, retaking this lead after Fred Thatch layup, and you see on your screen here, and the Bonnies took a 26-22 deficit into halftime, Anthony.
And it was a slow start for both teams. The Bonnies especially took a while to get it going. They did take that lead, but the last few minutes I thought were going to be crucial. And St. Louis was a team that took advantage. Okoro finished the half strong with 14 points. Thatch added a couple layups. But, St. Louis had the strength in that game to take the lead into the break.
And into the second half we go. Jimerson, it turned into the Gibson-Jimerson show as he takes over in this Billikens transition 3. Jimerson dribbles back out to the 3-point line, hits another 3. He ends up hitting 6 of them in this one, and the Billikens extend their lead after that one, 47-37. Later in the second half, the Bonnies did start to make their comeback after trailing by 10. Adaway was the leading factor in that as he takes and makes this 3-pointer to cut the deficit down to 4. And later, Don Welch hits this 3-pointer to cut the lead down to 1. And then towards the end of the game, the Bonnies had a chance up 1, but Jimerson gets, I think, a stagger screen, puts up a mid-range jump shot, knocks it in to give the Billikens a 1-point lead with just under 20 seconds to go.
There were a couple of times where I thought Bono was maybe dead in the water in this game, especially when they did get down 10. But we know that that's not in this team's DNA. They're 5 seniors. They're going to make their run, and so they chip away at it. And when Don Welch hit that 3 to, I think, bring it to 1 with maybe 2 minutes left, I thought, okay, they're going to get it done at this point because they've been in this position before where they've risen to the occasion.
After that timeout, Jaron Holmes gets his number called, drives to the center of the court, misses the floater, but Kyle Lofton comes down with a rebound, puts up a prayer at the end, gets fouled with 1.8 seconds to go, goes to the free throw line for 2 shots, chance to at least tie, maybe take the lead and win the game to send the Bonnies to the next round. He misses the first, an 80% free throw shooter. Lofton is on the season, misses the second as well, gets his own rebound with a chance to maybe put the game away at the buzzer as well, but unable to do so. And the Bonnies fall on this one 57 to 56. And Anthony, we'll start with you talking about that final play. Jaron Holmes ends up driving to the middle of the floor to put up that potential game-winning shot at the end. What were kind of your thoughts after seeing that play?
Yeah, I thought that they probably would have gone to Dom or Jalen because, they were kind of the hot hand in the second half. But, all 5 of those guys are capable of making that play at the end. It was unfortunate that Jaron couldn't get the shot to go. It was unfortunate that Kyle couldn't make those free throws. But you can't argue that these guys gave everything they had to try and come back and win this game.
The one thing I'll say with the Holmes play, I know people are kind of wondering, why was that last play necessarily called for him? He's 2 for 13 on the day. I have zero problem with a play where Holmes is going to the basket because he's still proven even throughout a little bit of a slump for him that he can finish, he can get to the basket. If he was shooting a 3, maybe that wouldn't be the best play. It was a good look. He just missed. Credit to Kyle for being able to get that rebound and get the foul. And we talked about it of all the ways this game could have gone, could have ended. I don't think any of us would have necessarily envisioned missed free throws at the end. You feel bad for Kyle in that moment. And Coach Schmidt talked about it afterward. And we know this. It's a cliche, but it's true. There were so many other things that went against them in that game that cost them just as much as the 2 free throws in the end.
Getting into our favorite segment, one word, talking about a word that kind of entraps the entire week in St. Bonaventure Bonnies basketball. Anthony, we'll start with you. What's your word for this week?
Yeah, Ryan, my word for the week is stunning. That's really the only way, in my opinion, to describe what happened with those events on Friday. You have a guy in Kyle Lofton, your senior point guard, your 4-year captain, steps to the line, and the ball doesn't bounce his way. The crowd was stunned. I was courtside for the game doing media, and I was absolutely stunned. You have so many Bonnies fans there. It's basically a home game with all the alumni and students. To have the game end that way, you could have predicted a loss, maybe a couple points, not get it done, but to lose that way, there is no other word to describe it than stunning.
I mean, that's true, and the 3 of us were there courtside to see this, and I've always said that Bonna has had the best crowds at these A-10 tournaments by a mile. It's actually really impressive to see, and I think everybody, it's a great day for everybody. I know everybody's enjoying themselves this weekend, and you go into this thing thinking they're going to get this quarterfinal game at least, and then let's go into tomorrow against Davidson and see what happens. And for it to just sort of abruptly come to an end the way that it did, and there's the shot of Jalen Attaway was the last to leave before he had his hands on his hips, just sort of staring straight ahead in that stunned silence. It felt like that's what everybody in the building was doing at that time. So stunned, certainly the word for it. Mine was heartbreak. I mean, again, for it to end so abruptly and to have your senior 4-year captain, starter point guard, best free throw shooter on the team, 82%, to step up. It was just such a big moment. And I think once the first one missed, suddenly that pressure just becomes maybe too much for anybody in that moment. But again, lots of other things. 2 other missed free throws in that final minute too wasn't certainly just on Kyle's shoulders.
Kyle Lofton, obviously, he does miss those free throws at the end of the game, but that obviously, as Schmidt said in his post-game press conference, doesn't encompass his season. He does get A-10 third team for his award. Just what do you think Kyle Lofton had meant for the Bonnies this season as a whole? I mean,
we've said it. He is the heart and soul of this team. I think you could say that Jalen Attaway had the best individual year of any of those guys, and certainly making first team, suggests that. We know how much Oshun means to this team defensively and breaking the blocks record this year. But at the end of the day, Kyle is still the heart and soul of this team. He's a guy who has the ball in his hands at all times. He's the playmaker. He's the floor general. He never leaves the court, plays 40 minutes a game. He's been an all-conference player in all 4 years, really, from the all-rookie team to 2 first teams and then a third team this year. I mean, there's just no denying the impact, the records that he set.
And in terms of talking about his buddy on the court, Oshuni, who's been with them for 4 years, I think with this whole season, there was some disappointment for his offensive game. People, were talking about the draft at the beginning of the year and what steps is he going to take. But I think Coach Schmidt made a really good point after the game that, Oshun didn't have his best game offensively against St. Louis. He had played good against them in the 2 previous games. But they're not asking him to get his back to the basket and, hook shots, post moves, all that. They're trying to get him to do the dirty work, and what St. Louis did was take him out of that. So I think another thing, as we think about what happened with Kyle and missing the free throws and everything, let's not shame the players. They did their best in this game, but we can't take away from what they accomplished on the season as a whole.
JP, A10 NIT tournament starting up this week. Your JP story time. What do you got for us?
So yeah, we were wondering if we were going to do a story time this week. Why not? So there was one game in the entire time I've been doing this that Bon actually played in Colorado. It was in the 12-13, so we're going back a little bit, at Colorado State. So I've always talked about how cool of an opportunity it is to do the road games, and that's probably right at the top of the list, from being able to go out and stay in Denver. And then we rented a car. We had an hour drive from Denver to Fort Collins, where Colorado State is, and to just have the Rocky Mountains the entire drive and being able to see them in person. The game itself didn't go particularly well. Colorado State handled that Bonnet team that year. You hear about the altitude and that kind of thing, what type of factor that might be. So it'll be interesting to see how this Bonnet team handles playing out in that environment, in that state, in this NIT game.
Exactly. The Bonnies will be tipping off later tonight at 11 p.m. tip-off, so it's going to be a late one for all the Bonnies fans watching. But coming up, our crew will preview that first NIT round and matchup for St. Bonaventure as they take on Colorado in just 6 hours. And later, the guys give their final predictions and discuss the future of the Bonnies. This is BBN, and this is March.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back. Dad! You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Welcome back to BBN. The Bonnies will take on the Colorado Buffaloes tonight at 11 p.m. JP, Anthony, what do you got on the scouting report of the Colorado Buffaloes?
Well, Colorado's got an experienced team too. They've won a couple big games this year. They beat Arizona, a number one seed, the second overall number one seed in the tournament. They beat them by 16. They contended with them in the Pac-12 tournament. They beat Montana State, who is in the tournament. I know not a luxurious seed, but still a lot of seniors on this team, a lot of experience, and they're going to be motivated too. Their coach, Tad Boyle, has been saying throughout the week kind of the same things Schmidt would be saying about playing for the older guys, being ready for this opportunity, because it's still a good tournament.
I think so. It's an interesting matchup. You have two coaches who really built a winner over an extended period of time. Boyle's been there 12 years now, taking teams to 5 NCAA tournaments. Having that home court advantage, I do think, is going to be a big thing for them. They got over 11,000 people for that Arizona win. Two teams that were, went into their conference tournaments hot. Both had won 8 out of 9, and really the most impressive thing being that win over Arizona, which came recently, February 26th, to beat the number 2 overall seed in the NCAA tournament by 16, is probably something that really stands out to Bonnet fans in terms of, ooh, boy, this might be a tough one, tonight.
Evan Batty shoots 50% from the field, so they're going to have their hands full inside.
50% from threes.
Yeah,
for a 260-pound guy, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, they're going to have their hands full inside, especially. And I know we've kind of touched on this whole altitude thing, but for a normal team, you expect that. The guys are all going to get tired, but this team really only goes 5, maybe 6, maybe 7 deep some nights. So if they're going to pull off this game and kind of turn the page, get a fresh start in the postseason, it's going to be a tough task to make that trip, play later than usual, and be able to manage the altitude, the climate and everything. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, get your nap in, get your coffee, and we'll see who's still standing at 1 o'clock in the morning.
You mentioned the three-point shooting ability for their big men. Shun is 50% from three as well. Maybe only one for two, but he's got the shooter badge as well. So we'll see how that game goes. Of course, St. Bonaventure and Colorado, 11 p.m. tonight. Definitely going to want to get your nap in for that one if you're going to stay up. So now talking about St. Bonaventure's season as a whole, let's first talk about the fans that were able to finally be in attendance this season. Obviously, last season they make the NCAA tournament run, but maybe we got to experience that a little bit on the media side, but fans weren't able to be in the Riley Center and experience that great run that they were able to have. So what impact do you think they made on this season, maybe even all around college basketball?
I just think the fact that they were able to be here and celebrate these guys and celebrate what they did last season. Obviously this year didn't go exactly according to plan, but just the fact that they got that one last go round to kind of send them off and be here for some of the good things that have happened this year too. Certainly Charleston being really the height of it, but some nice home wins. A perfect night, I said before, in that regular season finale against Richmond.
Yeah, there's a lot of memories this year. A lot of Bonnie's fans will remember forever. I think that this community really attaches to St. Bonaventure basketball, but especially after this year, after everything that they've gone through, missing the games, dealing with the global pandemic, and having guys like Jaron Holmes, before the game, sees kids in the crowd, wants to go hug them, give them autographs and stuff. Shun and Kyle, those personalities that you see, that those fans are interacting with every day. It wasn't the NCAA tournament that everybody wanted. Everybody wanted to see them get back. But I think this Ironman 5 2.0, that nickname, that moniker, everything, this team meant so much to the community. And I've only been around here for a couple of years, but there's something special about this group that people will remember for a long time.
There was more of a unique relationship with these guys than a lot of other starting fives because of the fact that most of them have been here and starting since day one. So you've got time to sort of grow with them, whereas you might have a guy sit on the bench for 3 years and then he has this great senior year and you love him then. But these guys have been doing it, for 4, 3, and now 2 years with Jalen, and for these guys to come in and be the nice guys that they are, to embrace it, to be unselfish, to be the teamwork, for a guy like Attaway to come in and just quietly kind of make the impact that he did. I know Bona fans really just embraced what these guys were all about.
Yeah, just a few of the top moments from the season. Obviously, the time that this team spent in the ATP Top 25 poll. Obviously, the Charleston Classic, as you mentioned, bringing home that title, beating teams like Clemson and Boise State and Marquette. A couple of those teams in the NCAA tournament that we'll be seeing throughout the week. And then getting the double bye in the A10 tournament when it seemed like they were dead in the water. They had so many runs throughout the season, dealing with the injury of Kyle Lofton and able to get wins. It was just a great season for St. Bonaventure basketball, and we'll hope that they can get something done in the NIT to finish off on a high note. Coming up, the crew will go over the Bonnies next year, see what that team will be looking like. Is the Ironman 5 2.0 going to make a return for their COVID year? And we give our final predictions heading into the NIT. How far do we think the Bonnies are going? Find out next when we come back. This is BBN, and this is March.
Put the keys down, Kevin.
But I'm gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
My text to emoji ratio has gotten a little out of hand.
A little?
Yep, I'm definitely gonna call a ride home.
Welcome back to BBN. JP, I'll start with you just right off the bat. What do you think this Bonnies team looks like next season?
Boy, I don't think anybody has the answer to that question yet, because now we could talk about this all day long. Maybe that day will come. I'm having a tough time envisioning these guys coming back right now. They've experienced it. They've done it 4 years. They did make an NCAA tournament, and they all have money waiting for them after this year. And so from that standpoint, you're really, that's a huge void. I do think a couple of these bench guys are going to come back and be impact players next year, but I also think that Coach Schmidt is going to go kind of the transfer route and see if he can bring some experienced guys in that can maybe come in and play right away. You know, you might not necessarily depend on Saizanu and you know, quite right off the bat, ease that a little bit by bringing in some experienced transfers. I think he's going to have a busy spring with that for sure.
Yeah, and let's not forget the first guy that they're bringing in next year, Barry Evans. He's from Putnam. If you don't know, that's where Kyle and Shun came from, that Putnam pipeline, as they say. Barry Evans, an extremely talented big guy that they're bringing in, kind of a steal, in my opinion, if you're talking about recruiting. But I think I agree with you with the hitting the transfer portal, seeing what's out there. And I think guys like Kareem and Quadri can really have a chance to develop. They've had their moments in big games this year. You think of Quadri against VCU. Kareem, even in Friday's game, came off the bench early and had a spark, a couple points, really good defense. There's room for those guys to grow here, but I think what you're looking at is no more experienced guys. You're looking at a lot of young guys coming in, headlined by Barry Evans.
And Barry Evans is a freshman, I think, who could come in and compete right away. Some guys do, some guys don't. I think he could be one. But if Bona's looking to, sort of maintain here and still be able to make a run at that top four and not have this dramatic fall off, which I don't think anybody's expecting, he's got to go that transfer out to some extent. You need an experienced point guard in there. So if there's a fifth-year guy who wants to come in and play this last year here, or a good big, to mix in with a Quadri who may become a starter next year, with a Kareem who might, start next year. I think it's the route they're going to end up going.
It's going to be very interesting to see what this team looks like next year. We're so used to seeing Kyle Lofton, Oshun, and company out there and what they were able to produce. You know what you're going to get. Next season, you're not going to really know what you're going to get out there, and you're just going to see if St. Bonaventure can stay competitive, as they always seem to do with whatever they be able to put out there on the court. Now, obviously, St. Bonaventure versus Colorado tonight at 11 p.m. Let's get into our predictions for the game. JP, what do you got?
Okay, so here's the thing. There's so many things going against them, right? And really, they got such a bad, tough draw through no fault of their own. That has nothing to do with how they may play between the lines tomorrow. But between the tough draw and how good of a team Colorado is, I think it's going to be difficult for them to win this game. But you know what? I'm not going to pick against them, because here it is. This is gut check time. Things didn't go your way on Friday. You now have this opportunity just 4 days later to have that not be the way this ends. 5 seniors to still make something of the end of this season. So that one factor alone, for me right now, is going to top all of these other things that are going against it. And if they truly want to embrace this chance to rewrite the ending, this is it. So I'll give it to them from that standpoint. Bona squeaks out a rock fight and is maybe playing in Oklahoma on Saturday, and we'll see what happens from there.
Yeah, JP, this one is really hard for me to predict. I think that all the factors going into it, with the traveling and the short time to prepare, I think that's really detrimental.
Yeah, they don't even get a whole full day.
They don't get a full day to practice, and they're like the only team that's changing time zones to play this game in the NIT, which I just think is absurd by whoever makes the NIT bracket. That's just absurd to be doing that. But anyways, for the game, I think the physicality and the size of Colorado is going to present some problems for Bonas. And again, we talk about going in the atmosphere and the change and everything. I think that's really hard to adjust to, and I think some people might underestimate that. We've always been picking the Bonnies on this show, and it doesn't seem to work out. My gut says Colorado's going to win this game, like 77-74.
Yeah.
But I mean, my heart wants the Bonnies to pull this one out. Yeah. But last thing, I go back to Friday and I think about that game. I don't know if these. I'm not saying they're not going to play hard. I think you're going to get everything from this team, but I just don't know how much there is left to give, because they've given their blood, sweat, tears, everything, and I think that showed Friday. I think it's going to be hard to bounce back. But I could be proven wrong. I would love to be proven wrong, but I got Colorado winning this one.
You guys were convincing me both ways just then. I've been going back and forth just in the last 2 minutes. I think it's just going to be too tough for St. Bonaventure. Obviously, you think that, they don't want to end that way, of course, losing to St. Louis in the A-10 tournament. But Colorado, they don't want to end their season with a loss either. So these are going to be two teams going 110%. And just Colorado, they beat Arizona. They only lost to Arizona by 10 in the Pac-12 tournament. This is a very good team in the Pac-12 conference. So I think it's just going to be way too tough for them. And it's just going to be a tough ending to such a great career for St. Bonaventure's Fab Five.
It is.
There.
It's just asking so much. And unlike the other day, nobody would blame them if they were to lose this game.
Right.
The way, it sort of was against St. Louis. The one other thing we haven't mentioned that I think could help Bana is the fact that they've had a number of these games this season. The fact that they beat Power 5 programs like Clemson and Marquette. They gave UConn a battle. The Virginia Tech game obviously didn't go well, but the fact that they played it, they've had like 5 or 6 of these games. They're not going to be intimidated. They're not going to be stunned by what they see tonight, but it just might end up being a bit too much.
I'm going to be right where you are, Anthony. I'm going to be hoping that the heart overweighs the gut there, but it's going to be a very good game tonight. You're going to have to get your nap in, as JP said earlier. It's going to be a late one. And stay tuned, 4 a.m. Your story coming out, JP, OTH.
So this will be the first time I think I ever talked to maybe Coach Schmidt at about 2 o'clock in the morning. We'll see how that goes. And then, I guess we're going to be writing stories in the middle of the night. So hopefully you appreciate them.
So stay tuned for that. Who knows when that story will come out. We'll, of course, be updating you on SBU-TV Sports and social media pages as well. Well, that's all we got for this week of BBN. It's a very exciting week. The NCAA tournament starts and the NIT tournament gets going as well. We'll see how St. Bonaventure fares out.
Got Davidson winning a game. Foster Lawyer gets revenge on his old Michigan State team, and Davidson gets to the round of 32.
Don't underestimate the Spiders either. They're hot right now.
2 A-10 teams. It's a multi-bid league in the A-10 for NCAA March Madness this season. Stay tuned. It's going to be a great week. We'll see you next week. This was BBN.